So here's a point people will see on Google Earth. This is a B17 Flying Fortress from World War II. And what it was this place was a gas station at one time. I think it was built in the early 60s and then decommissioned in the early 80s. But the restaurant's still active. They had detached the cockpit area from the bomber, and that's over in a little museum over here, so we can take a tour. But there's it was basically the shade for the gas station, and the engines were removed, so but you can get an idea how big they were. You can get an idea of the size of the plane, but it's not as big as you'd think it is. It's really these things are made to carry a lot of weight, but they weren't a bulky airplane. And so not a real bulky airplane, and so, you know, full-size guy barely stands up in this thing, and to get all the way from the front to the rear, I think you had to crawl over the bombs. So, you know, bugs and birds and stuff are camping out in here. Some people have managed to get up in there with a ladder, but that was where the belly turret was. And you know, these aircraft for the most part were for smaller people. If you were too big, it probably wasn't going to be a good idea to be a crewman in one of these things. And well, there it's starting to fall apart, but you can see how small some of this stuff was, and you know, it'd be up in the air in that thing, and it wasn't super bulky. It was made to carry a lot of weight. And it's you know, aluminum riveted construction on there, and but you know, they carried a fair amount of firepower to ward off the fighters. But that's it. So it's an attraction on Google Earth. A lot of people wonder what it is. And a little trailer park area out here is actually where a lot of the people in that squadron lived after the war. So this is a thing, B-17. Not a super big aircraft, really, when you think about it. I've seen some of the fighters are, put it this way, it's less than twice the size of one of the fighters. So these guys, you know, when they're spending a real long mission in one of these things, it was kind of cramped quarters for a long time. You got to respect them for it. And so anyway, it's a B-17 bomber from World War II. And somebody might have mentioned a few things about making these into a passenger plane. They're just not real efficient for that because it's a small space inside, and the way that cargo space was set up on these, it was made to carry a lot of weight. It was not made to carry a lot of volume. So that's why the DC-3s, a lot more of the DC-3s survived the war than these things did, because these just weren't incredibly practical after the war.